So what is Hades in the first century based on the understanding of the time? Hades would be the afterlife. But remember what Jesus said about himself to John when John was terrified in the presence of Christ. He said, "Do not be afraid. I hold the keys of death and Hades." So therefore, he's encouraging John, but also letting all Christians know, all people of earth, saying, hey, no one dies without my say so. I have the keys to death. Also, I have the keys to what happens to you after you die. But this horse essentially is just saying death is going to be happening. And it indicates how death is going to be happening. Also, it does not show favoritism. It does not have any well, I'm not going to touch the people over here, or I'm not going to touch the rich or the poor. It's fair game. And it's done through sword, famine. My version says pestilence. What does your version say? Plague. So we can regard it to be just illness. People are going to die of being ill. And then, of course, wild beasts of the earth. Does that happen today? Sure. Yeah, it sure does. Verse 9. When the Lamb broke the fifth seal, I saw underneath the altar the souls of those who had been slain because of the word of God and because of the testimony which they had maintained. Okay, I'm going to pause there. What's the difference with the fifth seal when compared to the first four seals? The first four seals were broken and then a horse appeared. 4 horses, interesting. We're going to go back to the book of Zechariah in just a moment. However, let me go back real quick because there's a little phrase there that I think is important for our understanding of future pieces in the book. It says authority was given to them over a fourth of the earth. Why a fourth of the earth? So a fourth of mankind will die. A fourth of the physical land mass will be impacted. None of those things would be accurate. So a fourth has to represent something. So remembering back to our first lesson, the concept of the number 4 are physical things. And the idea of a fourth indicates it's not totality. It's a piece, it's a partial of the physical well-being of man that will be taken away. Death, a fourth, but it's physical. And then also to just further indicate, it even says killing with the sword, famine, pestilence, wild beasts of the earth. None of those things damage a person's soul, but they damage us physically. So it's a fourth of the earth, the concept of 4. Okay, let's go back to Zechariah chapter 1. Zechariah chapter 1. I'm going to start in verse 8. Zechariah chapter 1, verse 8. I saw at night, and behold, a man was riding on a red horse, and he was standing among the myrtle trees which were in the ravine, with red, sorrel, white horses behind him. Then I said, my Lord, what are these? And the angel who was speaking with me said to me, I will show you what these are. And the man who was standing among the myrtle trees answered and said, these are those whom the Lord has sent to patrol the earth. So they answered the angel of the Lord, who was standing among the myrtle trees, and said, we have patrolled the earth, and behold, all the earth is peaceful and quiet. It's very interesting here just to think about the potential comparison, the potential connection to the 4 horses that we read about in Revelation and the 4 horses that we see here. They're clearly their job is to be on the earth, to control things that are going on in the earth and report back to the Lord what's going on in the earth. And then we read in Revelation, these 4 horses are doing things physically on the earth. They're killing, there's famine, etc. So, are the horses here? Is the reference here? Or whatever these beings are they the same in the book of Zechariah? The Lord knows, but it's just something to think about. And I don't know about you, but I love stuff like this. I love to think about it. So, pausing there, are there any questions or comments? Kevin?
You kind of made the comment a little earlier, but it's almost like as we're reading this, you can look at the times and just government systems or wars or all those things that are going on, and you can see, look, this physical world is not giving us the things that we truly need. We're working harder than we're supposed to. And there's just a lot here to be able to recognize, and it's almost as if I could imagine that God is revealing this to John to say, look, these things are going to happen. You're living in this world, but this is the government systems, the economic systems, the health systems, all of those things don't control who you are, your destiny, or the things that you need, right?
Yeah.
They are things that operate and work in this world. They aren't the things that control you. So
Sure.
there's almost like a sense of relief of saying, oh, I don't have to trust in these things.
Yeah.
I could see that as being something that a reader of this could read and say, I don't have to trust that Rome is going to stay afloat for me to be able to eat.
Yeah, that's well said. And it also reminds me of when Jesus says, behold, I have told you in advance. So when what I have told you comes true, don't be like, what's going on? I've told you in advance. So also you think about the Christians in the first century that are probably thinking, what in the world is happening? This is supposed to be the kingdom that's established forever. We're the people of God. So why are we being persecuted? And this is just a reminder from God saying, hey, things are just going to continue happening on earth. Don't be shocked. This is just the way that earth operates. Man is evil, sin is in the world. So be thinking about those things. Thanks, Kevin. So in chapter 9, with the 5th seal, there's a shift away from the 4 horsemen to this. When the Lamb broke the 5th seal, I saw underneath the altar the souls of those who had been slain because of the word of God and because of the testimony which they had maintained. It is extremely clear who these are. These are people that have lost their lives because of their trust and faith in Jesus Christ. And they cried out with a loud voice, saying, how long, O Lord, holy and true, will you refrain from judging and avenging our blood on those who dwell on the earth? So number one, you can understand why they're feeling this way. Saying, we committed our lives to you and we were killed for this. And they don't question whether or not God is going to. They're saying, when are you going to? So they know that it's going to happen. Also, as human beings, revenge, this idea of revenge can be something that can eat you from the inside. You have an enemy and you've been wronged and you really want to get back to that. There's just something that's raw in a human when it comes to those things. And we see it here that even though they are in the presence of God or they have won the fight, they're still saying, but But wait. How long are you going to wait until you avenge us? Also, we see this phrase for the first time, on those who dwell on the earth. That is the phrase that is used in the book of Revelation to indicate the sinful people of earth. Also, I like it because it's like a slight, just a, almost like, they're so insignificant. They're just dwelling on the earth, just taking up, they're just breathing air down there. And I don't know, to me, I feel that is terminology that highlights their feelings about those individuals. So there's no love lost there, I guess, in that regard. Let's continue on.
Lance,
Yeah.
it's also, I think it's important that this fifth seal was opened up after all these other things were shown.
Yes.
And I'm gonna pull back the veil, and I'm gonna let you see the spiritual warfare that's going on in the physical realm. And so that you know what's going on. And here's this group of people who have suffered through that, who've martyred their lives, who have died, and they're saying, we've experienced all this, how long until you avenge this? How long until you take down the government systems that are hurting people, the corporate commerce system, that, you know, all, whatever you want to associate to all of these things, right? How long until you avenge those so that the world is healed and the world is right and the world is the kingdom that we're waiting for, because they're kind of waiting for this kingdom in a way, right? So I mean, as they outline this, I think it's interesting to put it all into context instead of identifying each kind of seal as its own independent thing. It's they're working in totality. All of this death and pestilence and all those things, it affects the believers too. And the believers are hurting, and they're saying, how long until you avenge this? And we're about to hear kind of the response.
Yeah. Mike?
So it kind of gives us a picture of time in a way. When you started the class, we were talking how some people look at this as future events, some people look at this as comfort for those going through torment in the past. Whoever shed their blood is still alive on the earth at the time this is being spoken. So we're kind of saying that they're like the people who did this, and it kind of, to me, leans more towards the past tense versus the future, but the people that did this are still alive on the earth. You know, it kind of paints a picture.
That is well said, because we're going to see some tenses here that support that idea. Yeah. Nathan?
That phrase of cried out, the altar represents the blood sacrifice, and the blood drains down the altar, not to be gross, but that's what happens. And then this makes me think of Genesis 4:10. You've got Cain and Abel, and Cain had made a sacrifice, but it was his brother.
Yes, well, yeah, it was the blood who cried out. And actually, in two separate commentaries I've covered, they both reference that specific thing with regard to how long are you going to wait to avenge our blood that was shed by those who dwell on the earth. And they referenced God here, like, there's something that's about the blood being shed. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Elaine,
Yeah.
I have a question, you may not have an answer to this, but how do we square this concept with kind of the general idea that Christians have that heaven's going to be blissful, we're going to have no memory, there's going to be no agony? I mean, it seems like these people are anxious and in agony about the vengeance that they are waiting for.
Right.
It seems like they clearly understand what's going on.
Right.
Like, how does that fit in with our current concept of how we're going to be in heaven?
Sure. So,
Maybe a question for
no, it's good. 'Cause I know we all think about it. Like, what happens after we die, / before the final judgment? I do believe that this is the in-between stage. I do believe that this is an indication of the fact that human beings have souls that are eternal. And again, I'll preface everything I say with this is my opinion. But that after death, there is still consciousness, they still are aware, but the final revelation of God, the final judgment of God has not yet taken place. And so there's an interim period of time that these people are in, and we're able to see that their thoughts and their feelings about we lost our lives. And so I do believe that once the final judgment happens, that I don't know what God is going to do for our memory, but I do know that there will be no more heartache, there will be no more suffering, there will be no more tears. And so that's my thought would be that. Also, something to support the idea would be that what does Jesus reveal about the rich man and Lazarus? Well, they have consciousness, they are able to feel, they're able to see, but both of them are in two different places with regard to the afterlife. But is that an indication that in heaven, when all things are said and done, that we're going to be able to look across this chasm and see all the suffering and the people that were cast into hell? That's not accurate. There'd be no way. So there's just something about the afterlife that we don't fully comprehend, but I don't believe that this is an indication that the final judgment has taken place. That's my thought, and it's a good question. Yeah, we don't need all the answers. That's right.
I'm sure that there's what, about 40, 50 people plus in here. I imagine that we all have some different ideas of what that might look like
Sure.
in Scripture. But I think that in context of what you said is being fully in the presence of God supersedes whatever human emotion that we kind of equate towards what heaven could be.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't comprehend it or imagine it.
Yeah. There's also some things later on in the book that discuss and talk about these individuals who have been martyred and their standing, if you will. So we're gonna look into that also. Yes.
I just had a thought.
Yeah.
One of the keys to heaven is the fact that those who are in heaven will have complete and perfect forgiveness of everything that they did before. Because of that, that's where that peace comes from, that they're talking about.
That's a good thought. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So, in verse 11, and there was given to each of them a white robe, and they were told that they should rest for a little while longer until the number of their fellow servants and their brethren who were to be killed, even as they had been, would be completed also. So that is packed full of information with regard to this. So first of all, and there was given to each of them a white robe. So that indicates this is a reward. This is the symbolism of your salvation and of your forgiveness. Also, it is an elevation of them. So, as we have seen continuously, those that are being saved, it's not just like a, hey, good job, you did it. No, it was a continual and ongoing honoring of those Christians, and they're given crowns. They're being honored. They're being given these white robes. And it says that they should rest for a little while longer. It's just so comforting because they were already resting. And they just rest for a little while longer. God is revealing and is responding, saying, I hear you. You just need to rest for a little while longer. Just be comforted knowing that I am in charge, and also see. But it says, until the number of their fellow servants and their brethren who were to be killed, even as they had been, would be completed also. So it goes back to what Mike said. This is present tense, not 2024. That's right now, right then, at that time. There were people that had already been killed. because of their faith. And John is being shown these things in heaven during the time where Christians are being killed. And so those that have already been killed are saying, how long are you going to wait to avenge us? Well, it's coming, just rest, because there's still more of your brethren who are being killed as we speak. Yes.
Not to ask a question, but, so are we saying this little while is 2,000 years to now, since we're saying that that was judgment that they'll be avenged at? Or when were they avenged?
I don't know.
So then this little while in the context is meaning 2,000 plus years.
I would argue that it was not. I would argue that these individuals, these Christians, were killed through the authority of the Roman government, the Roman Empire, and the Roman Empire was wiped off the face of the earth. I believe that possibly could have been the avenging of these Christians here. But it also could be, I mean, it'd be hard to argue that it wouldn't also be the final judgment when they're being cast into hell also. And we couldn't say, well, it's not that, because that would be far worse than them losing their physical lives. Also, I wonder what level of understanding are we going to have after death? You know how we all say, when I get to heaven, I'm going to ask God this. Will we care? Will we even remember? Or even, will it even be, think about when you were a child, and the things that you're like, I don't really even care about this. How many of those things do you remember now? Probably none, because they were very insignificant. And how much more so are our questions now on earth? When we're in the presence of God in heaven and it's all said and done, I don't know. I don't know. Now, the human part of me says, yeah, but I really want to know. So, we don't know. Kevin?
It sounds like, I know that a lot, reading through Revelations, there's always this caution of this post-millennial kind of, are these things going to happen today? Or,
Yes.
or looking for the signs and trying to figure out what number, what day, and all these things. And I think that we here in this faith, in this room, have a very big caution towards that.
Sure.
Right? And
Sure.
I always want to recognize that piece. But I also think, and I'm also seeing here in the scripture, this little while could very well be today. If John is seeing these signs, he's seeing something that's outside time and space. Here's a group of people. It could be the group of people that it's not yet complete because there's still future folks to be added. But at the same time, right now, those future people that were to be added have been added, and it's still true that there's still future people to be added today. So I'm just kind of trying to pull myself out of the time with the visions that he's seeing. At some point, we could be among this group of people, saying, when will this happen?
Mm-hmm.
And then we will be given the comfort at that time to say, rest. God's going to fulfill his promise, and we can rest in that. And so there's a bit of comfort of, I'm not waiting for this world to be kind of come to a completion, so to speak, but I am looking forward to the promised rest, the promised fulfillment that God's going to complete, what he's going to complete. And I have faith that it will be good. And I don't have to worry about outside of that.
Yeah. Let me add some additional thoughts, then Mike, I'll get you. So I believe that this is specifically talking about those who lost their lives in this time period that we're seeing here. Let's reference back to Matthew chapter 24, I believe, when Jesus responds to the apostles' questions. He says, they ask, when will these things be, and what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? I asked 3 questions, and then Jesus answers the 3 questions, pieced out. And so, in his answer, he indicates there is never going to be a more devastating time period to ever happen again, nor has there ever happened previously. The devastation is going to be so total and so absolute that it's not seen on the earth at any time. And he's referencing the destruction of Jerusalem and then the chaos to ensue. And so I think that these individuals here who have lost their lives is a very select group of people tied down to a very specific time period. Also, later in the book, it talks about those who are beheaded for the sake of Christ being risen, and then they reigned with Christ for 1,000 years. I personally believe that these individuals who suffered in this time period receive a very specific reward that none of us have access to. Because it says they were allowed to reign with Christ for 1,000 years. But it's those who are beheaded for the sake of Christ. Okay. Mike.
I think I was thinking of Britton's question about the 2,000 years, I guess, and sometimes I think it's really just as, I hate to say simple, as what it's saying. Those that had suffered and died were under the altar asking the question, not when is the final judgment, but they're saying, how long till you avenge? And the answer is, rest a little while, some more are going to die, and then I will avenge. And so it seems like it's kind of, the more plain we take it sometimes, it's more straightforward.
And that's well said, Mike. Sometimes it's black and white on the page, and we don't need to go further than that. That's good. Okay, let's continue on. Go.
You touched on it, that you limited the number, those who will reign for 1,000 years.
Yes.
Those in the specific period of time there. Will the same reward be for those who are slain for Christ today, say North Korea? Of course, we don't know
Yeah.
from this, but you see the nature of reward. Is it the same if we were tortured today? Will we get the same reward? Or this is just...
I believe that it is just this particular group of people. That's my opinion. Yes.
In chapter 14, verse 17, I heard a voice from heaven saying, "Right blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from now on. Yes, says the Spirit, that they may reap rest from their labors, for their deeds follow with them." So, I think that the verse we're discussing right now kind of relates to even on the day of Pentecost.
something that we can conclude with certainty is that the reward, whatever the case may be, is perfect, because God is the one that is handling it and is in control, for sure. Yeah.
I think we're dealing with two things here. So the book of Revelation begins by saying, these are things that will soon come to pass.
I was about to say that.
And it ends by saying, the time is near. And all the details in the book of Revelation are dealing with what's going on at the end of the first century. That's what it's describing. But there are principles that we can pull out of the book that apply to people from all generations.
Sure.
And those principles still apply to us today, even though the details of the book are describing history.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, let's continue on. Great discussion. Verse 12. I looked when he broke the sixth seal, and there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth made of hair, and the whole moon became like blood. And the stars of the sky fell to the earth, as a fig tree casts its unripe figs when shaken by a great wind. The sky was split apart like a scroll when it was rolled up, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. Then the kings of the earth and the great men and the commanders and the rich and the strong and every slave and free man hid themselves in the caves and among the rocks and of the mountains. And they said to the mountains and to the rocks, fall on us and hide us from the presence of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of their wrath has come, and who is able to stand? So, first of all, it talks about who is afraid, who is being impacted, and the answer is everyone. There's no partiality when it comes to the wrath of God. Number two, I do like, there's a reference that is made that's possibly tied back to an Old Testament passage. It says, I said to the mountains and to the rocks, fall on us and hide us from the presence of him who sits on the throne. The Israelites said to, I'm forgetting the individual prophet, but they said, fall on us and hide us from the presence of God, essentially. And so here, again, these people are saying to the mountains and to the rocks, fall on us and hide us from this terrible wrath. And of course, who is able to stand? There's no escaping it. Remember that Jesus Christ has 7 eyes, the perfect amount of power, 7 horns, 7 eyes. There's no one that's going to escape. He sees all, he knows all, and there's not going to be one human being that will escape the judgment upon their own souls that is not what they deserve. Okay, I wanted to get through chapter 7 today too, so we missed. Thank you, everyone. You guys are always so great. Thank you.